I'm grateful for you that you're willing to take this first step in the fellowship, because in the midst of very professional lives and professional commitments, and facing all of the extra personal and professional challenges that the COVID pandemic confronts you with, you have committed your time to this leadership program. And it's one of the illustrations of how you, the first 30 fellows of our food systems leadership program, are passionate to be pushing for some real change, structural, significant, and practical progress towards bold ambitions. We as the initiators, that means Wageningen University in Research and Vasafiri Consulting, both of us globally leading institutes in food systems and in systems change, we share these ambitions. They lie at the heart of all that we do too, and they drive us to do our work excellently, because the questions are large and they need the best of us. So the African Food Fellowship that you're now joining is about changing food systems in a particular direction. We're not agnostic. It's about making sure that they deliver on the ambitions that are captured in the things such as the SDGs and the Malabo Declaration, which already 7 years ago in 2014 was referring to, and I quote, transforming Africa's agriculture for shared prosperity and improved livelihoods through inclusive growth and sustainable development. So, those ambitions are there. They have been there for a long time. And those ambitions, they give the direction to our journey. It isn't simply about any kind of change. It's about changing food systems so that they are set up to provide healthy diets, flourishing livelihoods for everybody involved, and to do so in a way that takes care of the planet we all depend on. Big words. In practice, it just translates to the work that you do, making more fish and vegetables available more affordably so everyone can improve their diets, providing appropriate finance to informal markets so that SMEs and farmers can invest affordably, and creating new business models for new ways of sharing risks and rewards in a fairer and more stable manner. Bold ambitions alone, though, they're not going to get us to where we want to go. I mean, after all, we know an enormous amount about the problems we must help resolve, such as the structural vulnerability of millions, the growing triple burdens of malnutrition, malnourishment, obesity, and the ongoing degradation of our natural environment. We know about many promising ways forward, and we know many dead ends that lie at the end of the choices that we continue to make now. So, despite the pledges made in 2014, currently only 4 countries, which unfortunately does not yet include Kenya, live up to their promise. We therefore need to make different choices and to be steadfast in acting on those choices. To get to transform food systems needs rethought and renewed leadership. Leadership that has 3 roles, your roles, pointing to why change is needed, making it urgent, prioritizing what needs changing, and knowing how to change food systems. Africa's emerging leaders, you are a critical continental resource. And that is why the African Food Fellowship focuses on supporting Africa's emerging leaders. Because your and broader emerging leadership can accelerate Africa towards the positive outcomes that we all desire. The African Food Fellowship is not alone in these ambitions. Many others are working hard in a similar journey. You are working hard in this with the fishing groups you lead, the NGOs you set up, the inclusive agribusinesses you have started. And our approach is collaborative. We seek to amplify successful efforts by others working towards across the food system by supporting the leadership within those efforts. What we bring to the party is threefold: a world-class food systems leadership program, incubation support for emerging initiatives by our fellows, and a curated network that actively supports your efforts and those of all our future fellows. So that's what's coming from our side, and we're really looking forward to you also sitting forward, stepping forward, and actively engaging and making this a fellowship and a learning program of us all. It's an unknown journey in many ways. A year ago, we didn't know we would be here. with the likes of you. In this next phase, it starts here. And the food systems leadership understanding, the skills and connections that you build will serve you for a lifetime. And what we learn together will benefit our planned first expansion to Rwanda. That's your first inspiration role. Our intention is to continue this journey for at least a decade and become active in many countries. And eventually, this and you will then be the first group can grow into a continental fellowship of influence. So from all these lofty ideas, let's come back down to earth, because change happens through the choices that you and your colleagues, your associates, your peers make every day in the food systems areas that you work in. We're starting in Kenya with agriculture, digital agri-finance, and SMEs focusing on horticulture. Impact areas that will differ in every country, and they'll differ over time. So these are local food systems that are essential for the goals that I have spoken of and where you are already active. Beyond all of these stories, above all, we want you to be inspired. We look forward to you inspiring others. We want you to have fun, because it is fun working with a great group of people on meaningful stuff. We want to improve your professional opportunities. And finally, we hope we can help you feel emboldened to make positive change happen. So, Eunice, will you and our fellows now introduce us to the impact areas that we are focusing on?
So in Kenya, we selected 3 impact areas, one being agri-finance, that includes all associated services around finance, such as insurance and also digital solutions. We also chose horticulture and aquaculture. If you are active in Kenya, you know that this doesn't come as a surprise as why we selected these 3 impact areas, especially coming off this high peak of COVID and looking at the disruptions that it has had in the food systems, as well as the potential and opportunities where we have seen microsystems thriving despite the pandemic. So these impact areas are subsystems, and we see them as leveraging points where we hope that while we work on these impact areas, they'll provide hope and they'll connect different networks, and the fellows together will be able to transform one part of the food ecosystem that would have multiplier effects. So we have digital finance, we have horticulture, we have aquaculture. And I think it's best to hear from the fellows directly in terms of their motivations and their passion and drive to transform these impact areas. So just looking to see who's on the call. So I will select Eric Ogello. So I know, Eric, you're in aquaculture. Kindly, if you could change one thing in aquaculture, what would you do? And in your opinion, what positive effect do you think it would have on the food system? Eric, over to you.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to join this program. Yes, indeed, I'm in aquaculture field, and one of the things that I will wish to change or to see change in aquaculture is a significant reduction in post-harvest losses and enhanced production, because this is at the basic foundation in aquaculture sector. What we have seen is that a lot of fish is produced, but along the chain, a significant proportion of that production goes to waste and therefore does not contribute to the economic and national income. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eric. Then we'll look at agri-finance. And when we look at agri-finance, we have seen with the movement and other mobility distractions and disruptions within the supply chain, digital finance has really skyrocketed in Kenya. I think for years, we have enjoyed the privilege of M-Pesa and the impact that it has had across multiple sectors. But when we look at agriculture and when we look at food systems in particular, digital finance and innovations in that space are really the next frontier when we look at agri-finance. So here I will select Grace Njoroge. So Grace, You are one of our selected fellows who has a specialty in digital agri-finance and looking at microfinance related solutions. So Grace, tell us, where did you develop this motivation and where do you see it going while working on the fellowship and with the fellowship?
Thanks, Eunice. Everyone, good afternoon, good morning. My name is Grace Njoroge, and to answer your question, Eunice, yes, digital innovations are quite rampant in Africa, specifically in Kenya, where with M-Pesa being founded in 2007, there's been quite a large uptake of those services. However, when you look at financial inclusion statistics, this differ quite differently between the urban and the rural areas. And so you find that the rural areas, the uptake is low, the coverage is low, the usage of digital innovations is low, which also translates also to uptake usage of financial services like credit, savings, insurance. And yet these are the people in the rural areas who really need these services, especially if we are going to be securing our food systems. We need them to produce more. We need, as we just had, post-harvest losses to be reduced. So we need them to be able to store their food, take it to the market quite easily. And so for me, the motivation was having worked in the sector, seeing a lot of this disjointedness in the various sectors, in the various actors who are in the sector. And so you find that there's a lot of information that can be leveraged to provide finance to these rural actors in the sector. But this information is very disjointed. People are not talking to each other. And if people could just talk to each other, then there could be better products developed for the segment, as well as better usage, better uptake, as well as better, not only financial services, but also non-financial services that have been proven to help these actors not only take the product, but also be able to utilize this product and increase their produce.
Fantastic, thanks, Grace. We're looking forward to following up on some of those proposals that you have made during the fellowship. So I would turn now our face to horticulture. And in horticulture, I mean, we have seen massive proposals, changes in policy, etc., that have come up post-COVID. We know that COVID really amplified nutrition and the need to sync both food security and nutrition for agricultural transformation. So my question is to you, Elizabeth, all the way in Nakuru. You've mentioned your specialty is looking at sustainable consumption and production. Could you tell us a little bit about what are some of the changes that you're looking forward to bringing about when you push for these propositions to happen?
Okay, thank you very much. To answer your question, I'd say one, if you look at the current production systems for the smallholder farmers, there are quite some challenges which are faced by the smallholder farmers. One being the low adoption of sustainable consumption and production practices. By this, I mean, you look at the farmers currently producing, they are not looking into issues of how much they are extracting from the natural resources. So for me, it is promoting the adoption of sustainable consumption and production, where farmers are going to maximize on their production, while at the same time reducing on the negative impacts which comes along when you undertake their production. Things to do with the soils we are using, the water we are using, the pesticides we are using, even the people we are using along the value chain. So for me, I'm looking forward to co-creating solutions, exchanging ideas, which are going to impact positively, mainly on our smallholder farmers. Our smallholder farmers, if you look at the value chains they are undertaking, especially in horticulture and the rest, it is quite unregulated. There are issues to do with the policy. There are issues to do with even the access to finance, which is going to access to finance and markets, which are going to enhance their production. Because we cannot talk about continuous and sustainable production without having finance, without having markets, and without having the knowledge on the production and consumption bit. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Oh, Elizabeth, I really liked your answer because as you went through, you talked about elements that Eric picked up in aquaculture, also gaps that Grace picked up in finance, and now in horticulture, and we see the full circle. We see systems and we see our impact areas being interlinked, and that is what we are actually striving for. I would like to tell the other members on the call, none of these questions were asked in advance. So it's just random selection. And just to give you a taste and a flavor of the fellows that we have on board, we have people who are working in different areas within the impact areas that they have selected at different levels and interlinked. And I'm happy that with time and with different courses, we'll see opportunities for people to work together and to develop these impact areas further. I think that's it from me on my end.